That Welcome to Country video was produced in partnership with local Gadigal people of the Aurora Nation in line with ancient customs and protocols. Before we begin today's session, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. I am currently on the land of the Gadigal people of the Aurora Nation and pay my respects to their elders past, present and future. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the country in which you are joining us from and pay my respects to their elders past, present and future. Welcome to everyone joining us today for day one of the 2021 Sydney Innovation Festival. My name is Imogen Barwick and I will be your MC for today's sessions. The Innovation Festival is designed to showcase some of Sydney's greatest entrepreneurial thought leaders and to introduce you to some of the fantastic innovation opportunities that you can take advantage of. We have a very exciting lineup for you today that is split into 4 different sessions. First up today, we have our Keynote Panel, which is a fireside chat with INCUBATE's Program Manager, Lindsay, and Judd Katz, founder of Refundid. At 2:15, we have our Innovation for Students by Students panel with a stellar lineup of Sydney University students and alumni. At 3:30, we have a workshop run by Zip's Matthew Bright, all about how to utilise the skills you'll learn in your arts degree to help you get a job in the tech industry. Also at 3:30, we have our Disrupting with Purpose session run by Professor Stephen Maguire to help you learn about the University of Sydney's new major and minor in innovation and entrepreneurship. Zoom links for these sessions will be coming up shortly in the chat. Now I would like to welcome Professor Richard Miles, Pro Vice Chancellor of Education, Enterprise and Engagement at the University of Sydney, to officially open the University of Sydney's Innovation Festival. Thank you, Richard.
Hi everybody, a very, very warm welcome to the Sydney Innovation Festival. Look, I just wanted to just say a couple of things, just to remind you of all the massive educational benefits that come from these sort of exercises. Firstly, remember that the best innovation work is truly interdisciplinary. And so again, it gives you an amazing opportunity to do all sorts of interdisciplinary things together, all sorts of different disciplines. Secondly, it's a fantastic way of channeling your enthusiasm, energy, and passion. And again, that's something I found in every founder that I talk to. They have that, they absolutely have that passion. Thirdly, just around learning all those key human skills that we know that really make fantastic leadership. It's around critical thinking, problem solving, cultural competence, and the most important thing that I noticed from the innovation space is resilience. And through prototyping, etc., it's a great way of learning how to, in some respects, to use that word to fail and then to come back with something even better, quickly and concisely. And remember, employers value these kind of experiences because they're authentic. So all I'd ask you is get involved, come to INCUBATE, go to Genesis, come to the Innovation Hub, get involved in our our fantastic innovation ecosystem here at the University of Sydney. And lastly, thanks to everybody that set this up and for everybody that's taking part. Have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, for that warm welcome. Now I would like to welcome Lindsay. Ben is the Program Manager of USyd's award-winning Startup Accelerator program, INCUBATE. Ben is no stranger when it comes to startup, as a co-founder himself to Shin Splint's treatment company, Solution. Today, Ben is going to be speaking to Judd Katz, who started his own business while studying here at the University of Sydney. Ben is going to be speaking to Judd about how he went from having a creative business idea to closing a successful multi-million-dollar raise in under a year with a startup Refundid. Welcome, Ben and Judd.
Thank you very much, Richard and Imogen, for that introduction. Thank you, Judd, for coming along. So as Imogen said, everyone, my name is Ben Lindsay, and I am the Program Manager at INCUBATE. So INCUBATE is the University of Sydney's flagship startup accelerator. It was founded in 2012, and since then, we've managed to help over 135 teams who've gone on to raise more than $40 million to grow their ideas and build phenomenal teams around the world. So at INCUBATE, we are also founder first. So that means if you are in our accelerator or in one of our programs, such as the Proto Workshops or Proto X program, it's all about upskilling you and providing you the resources and network of mentors to get your idea off the ground. We're here to be your first believers. Over the 14-week period in the Incubate Accelerator, you'll get access to workshops from some of Australia's leading startup accountants, lawyers, product designers, engineers, venture capitalists, and many more. You receive regular mentorship and guidance from myself, other startup founders, and our extensive Incubate mentor community. You get frameworks to get your first customers on board so you can leave the program, the Incubate program, ready to grow your idea and seek out investment. And on top of all of that, you receive $5,000 in grant funding to get your company started. For all of that, Incubate takes no equity in your startup, zilch. We believe that any student, staff member, researcher, or alumni of the University of Sydney should have access to any of our programs. As a result, we are also sector agnostic, meaning if you have an idea and you're in the audience, don't worry about the industry you are targeting. We are here to help. We've helped image diagnostic companies like Detected X. We've helped Earth AI, who recently closed $8 million to reduce the environmental impact of sampling in mining. We've helped BioScout, an agtech startup that can now be found in the Sydney Knowledge Hub. And we've also worked with Refundid, the co-founder of Judd, with us here today. So next year, we have 2 accelerators running. The first, Class 15, is going to be starting in February. The second class, Class 18, from July. Just a quick note, the Class 17, so if you like what you see in here with Judd, Class 17 of the Incubate Accelerator is going to be closing 11:59 p.m. next Monday, the 18th of October. So if it is something you want to pursue after hearing Judd talk, please make sure you apply. If you need more information, come along to the information session this Friday, the 15th of October at 1 p.m. For more information on how to apply to the Incubate Accelerator or learn about the other programs, please feel free to drop in to one of our drop-in sessions or head over to incubate.org.au. You can also follow us across all social media at Sydney Incubate. And lastly, if you have any other questions, feel free to connect with myself or the team via hello@incubate.org.au. So I'm in a very fortunate position as program manager of Incubate because I get to work with some awesome founders. Some of them are alumni from years ago. Some of them are current staff or researchers, or in the case of Judd Katz from Refundid, he started off as an undergraduate student. I first met Judd actually when teaching technology innovation through new ventures, a unit of study here at the University of Sydney. In that unit, he developed a completely different idea to the one we're hearing about this afternoon. However, towards the end of semester 2 last year, he connected with me regarding a pretty cool idea surrounding instant refunds for consumers online, Refundid. Within just 1 year of that meeting, Judd and his team have gone on to develop their product, secure some big customers, and they've raised $3 million from Afterpay's Touch Ventures, a VC fund that recently also just listed on the ASX. That's pretty remarkable. So we're fortunate enough to have Judd here with us today to answer some questions from myself and the audience about his journey as a founder, starting this journey as an undergrad student at the University of Sydney. So if you have any questions, please make sure you're sending them through to the Q&A. So not the chat, make sure you're sending them to the Q&A down at the bottom of your screen. Let's get into it. So Judd, you're down here on my screen. Thanks for being here. Quick intro of yourself. Who are you? What's your background? And then tell us about Refundid.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. Firstly, speaking about the Incubate application form there, it really feels like only a couple of weeks ago I was filling that in and chatting to you about the beginnings of Refundid. So definitely encourage anyone sort of pursuing a startup idea, getting anywhere, to just at least fill out the form and come chat to Ben. He's got a lot to say. So that's sort of my first words of wisdom. So a bit about myself. I'm Judd, 20 years old. And yeah, I started Refundid. So basically, it all sort of started in the start of COVID last year. Sort of hit everyone by surprise. I had a lot of additional spare time in my hands. And I actually got reached out by an old friend who I went to primary school with and hadn't spoken to since then. So, it would have been at least 8 years that we hadn't chatted. And he'd been doing a whole lot of e-commerce drop shipping sites, and was really keen to start something big. He was a bit sick of the drop shipping, lots of issues there. He was keen to do something a bit bigger than that. And he reached out to me. I was looking into a few startup ideas. I don't know how he came across me, that you can ask him about that, but he reached out. I'm going to be honest, I was quite surprised at first. I was like, who's this kid texting me? Haven't spoken in this long. It was a brave move on his behalf. But probably the best call I made to pick up the phone and speak to him and meet for a coffee. And that's really where it all began. We had a lot of spare time. We ended up just getting along really well and just sort of chatting about different ideas, across a whole wide range of industries. We didn't really know where we wanted to go, what we wanted to land up doing. We had time, we had passion, and I guess that's all you really need at that stage. And so we sort of continued the conversation, and then one day he comes to me and he's like, I've been waiting for my refund for a pair of shoes from Culture Kings for 6 weeks and I still haven't got it. And that's literally how it started. He had this issue. It was a huge pain, didn't have the money to go and buy a new pair of shoes that he wanted to get. And he's like, what if we could give instant refunds? What if returns policies were so easy and they were all just the same everywhere? And that's really how the idea started. It was very different back then. But what we're really doing now is we're providing e-commerce customers instant refunds for their online returns. So you can go look at our website, www.refundid.com. And basically, if you make a purchase at one of our partner stores and you want to make a return, you can go into our website, enter in the order number, click 2 or 3 buttons, just select the items you want to return, and get your refund paid into your account literally in under 30 seconds. We've had customers saying it's faster than lightning. So that's the product. That's how, we've adapted to that. It was really, 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 really different, when we applied to Incubate and when the first idea came about. But yeah, that's a bit about me and the Refundid, how it came to be.
Amazing, Judd. And you were talking about Joel there. So Joel Aaron, as well as the co-founder. So when you approached me, I remember my partner Alana was waiting for 8 weeks as well on a return, and I thought your idea was brilliant. But you've had Joel. You haven't spoken to him for years. He's reached out. You've thought of this instant refund idea. What was it like diving headfirst into startup world with this idea, particularly as a full-time student? You had studies to balance as well.
For sure. I mean, it was, I wouldn't say it was fast. I think what I've really learned about startups is everyone's got their own story. And if you want to pursue something, you will have your own story. And if you try and follow someone else's story, you're not really going to get anywhere because everyone's got their own story. You hear of a lot of startups where, it's these guys, they decide we've got this great idea and they get, millions of dollars when they just have the idea. They build up the products, they make it perfect, do all these customer interviews, etc., etc., etc. And then the day of the launch, it's this perfect product. For us, it was really the opposite. We were just 2 kids, talking about ideas and wanted to see what we could do. And so it really was a slow journey of us, I guess, coming to realize that what we were working on was completely new. There was a huge market for it, and it had a lot of potential. And it was a slow journey of, I guess, a whole lot of different things, from refining the idea more, speaking to different people, speaking to different connections of ours, customers, retailers, people, in business, people in the startup space. And that's really how, I think that's, a big part of Incubate as well. And that's really how, I guess, we came to understand that, there was a market for this, understanding how it can be built. I mean, that's a huge part of this, we speaking with developers, looking into the technology. So I guess I wouldn't call it diving in. I would call it a slow walk into discovering how, that we were really onto something. And then I guess when we had that realization, this is something, then it really was diving in. And I guess since then, earlier this year, we've been, going really hard at it.
Fantastic. And then actually touching point there on, you were talking about if you follow someone else's story, you might kind of not get anywhere, right? So, we have a lot of students who might be watching who are doing units of study where they're working on ideas that it's just a group project. You were working on an idea last year that was completely unrelated to Refundid. So irrespective of what you're working on, is there lessons that can be learned that are transferable to a different idea? So different idea, unit of study. What do you say to those students in the audience?
100%. I mean, as Ben said, I was working on a different idea as part of the unit of study while this was sort of, we were investigating this. And, that idea, I wouldn't say it was so great. And, it was great to see that because we sort of discovered, and I sort of discovered what a bad idea or a not feasible idea looks like. And that was in stark contrast to what the Refundid idea was like. And, maybe if I hadn't have seen what an unfeasible idea was like, then I wouldn't have known what a feasible idea looks like. So really, you just never know what experiences you have are going to be beneficial. And if you try and plan it, you just can't plan it, right? I just couldn't have planned doing that unit of study to have to have helped so much that it did. So I think it's a really key point that your experiences, whatever they may be, from units of studies to work experience, every little bit contributes to sort of your understanding, and that can be applied.
That's brilliant. And then just for anyone who's just dropping in, my name is Ben Lindsay. I'm the program manager of INCUBATE. We've got Judd Katz here, who is the co-founder of Refundid. So moving on to INCUBATE, you applied, you got in. What was it like, over the 15 weeks of INCUBATE? What experiences did you have? Did you enjoy it? Tell us about it.
Cool. Yeah. Great program. So obviously encouraging everyone to apply. Ben's great. So if you get to work with him, you'll develop a lifelong friend and a great mentor. So, and Nina as well. Big thanks to her, the team at INCUBATE. So I think there are a couple of things about INCUBATE that I think are really important to share. I think first is really the small stuff. And the small stuff, it goes a long way. And it's, it's not something that necessarily INCUBATE's gonna, put on their website and say, this is why you should do INCUBATE. But there are a lot of small things that doing INCUBATE really help with. I think, one of the big ones is office space. For us, that, our team, we use it every day, and having a place to go to work, an official office, their office in the uni is awesome if you've ever been there. It's literally the perfect startup environment. Massive screen, everything you can want from a startup space, meeting rooms, all the devices you could think of there. So something like that, it really goes a long way. Something like being in a room and speaking with other startups and understanding, what they're going through, it really goes a long way, that type of stuff, to motivate you, to encourage you, to keep you on your toes. And then there's obviously what the program actually is and the benefits of that. So I mean, the workshops are great. They may not necessarily be exactly targeted to you, but you can learn so much from, speaking to different people. And I think that it's really a key point about, I guess, the whole startup journey is it's just non-linear. That's the best way I can put it. You can't say, I'm going to do this and it's going to lead to this and it's going to lead to this. And if I do this, it's going to help with this. You just sort of have to go with the flow. And that's really what INCUBATE provides. It provides those opportunities to get involved and go with the flow. Of course, they're also great, perfectly targeted workshops that, we would have the workshop on a Friday and we'd come in on the Monday and change our ways and see, success straight away, especially with Ben and his sales advice. There's a lot of stuff that Ben taught us, from sort of theory, and, he reads lots of books. about this stuff, and you apply it and you see results, because these books are based off studies. You know, it's really straightforward like that. So yeah, I think Incubate's great. I think yeah.
Awesome. Well, you said something there. So you've got to, you know, when you don't really necessarily, so you've got to go with the flow. You've got to get out there. I think one of the most commendable things for Refundid was, you know, that action you put in, right? So you saw the workshops on Friday. By the next Monday, you'd already developed and implemented changes. And one of the big things we saw was how fast you and the team got out, spoke to customers, spoke to potential advisors, mentors. You basically were all around Sydney at the very least, meeting everyone you could to develop this idea. And one of those people ended up being your first investor, Paul Greenberg. So who is Paul? How'd you get in touch with him? And then for the people who might be curious, how do you get someone like Paul to become your first investor? For
sure. I think it's a great question. I think, so the story of Paul, I guess, can begin with a bit of our failures. We were trying to do a lot of sales. We were, you know, we basically built a product that we thought was perfect. Of course, we thought it was perfect and it wasn't, but we thought it was perfect, and we were basically on the call all day, every day, you know, emailing nonstop, getting, you know, details of stores all across Australia, trying to get them to onboard the product. We were trying to give it away for free. We were trying to pay people. We were trying to do everything we could to get customers, to get sort of stores on board. And it just really wasn't working effectively. It was taking up a lot of time. You know, we were barely getting meetings, never mind getting stores on board. So it was far from effective, to say the least. And then, you know, we sort of started to realize that, you know, you need strategic partners. You need people want to trust you. That's the key thing. And so we try to sort of understand who are the guys in the industry, who are the people in the industry that can bring this trust, that can bring this, you know, badge of security, I guess. And Paul is the most well-known guy across e-commerce. He's a great guy. He loves startups, worked with a whole range of startups sort of throughout the e-commerce space, was, you know, an early advisor to Afterpay, early investor in Afterpay, and really a key to their success, and a whole range of other startups. And so, you know, we decided if there was anyone who can help us bring that badge of trust, anyone who can help us get connected to stores, he was the guy. And so we were able to get in a room with him, or at that time it was a Zoom, still COVID days. So we were able to get in a Zoom with him. We were able to pitch him the idea. Funnily enough, it was the first pitch ever that our demo crashed, which it was an interesting experience. With, you know, we'd done the demo of the product 100 times, and with him, the demo crashed, but he had patience. So don't think these guys who, you know, are experts in their field don't have patience. They do. We fixed the demo, we pitched in the idea, we explained our business model, we explained where we're at, we explained, you know, why we liked him. We had another couple meetings follow up, and he loved us. We were just authentic, and he loved that. He loved us, loved the idea, and we were able to sort of strike a deal for a pre-seed round of investment to bring him sort of on as an advisor. And that was sort of a key move by us, and it's really been a key to our success.
Awesome. And then just a bit of an on-the-fly question here. So earlier you've spoken about stories, you know, and, you know, now you've just touched point on Paul being an early advisor to Afterpay. I think one of the most interesting things that I actually learned from you and your team was how slow the first 18 months were for Afterpay, right? So how slow Afterpay took off at the start, you know, compared to where it is now. Perhaps you want to just quickly share that with the audience. So I know it's not Refundid, but it's a great insight maybe to teach people that sometimes you just have to be persistent to get up and running.
For sure. I think the point I wanted to actually speak about earlier was really Afterpay's success. I guess it was a big, you could probably call it an inspiration for us for this idea. When me and Joel were sort of chatting through ideas, you know, that was the time that Afterpay stock was absolutely skyrocketing out of control. And, you know, I just kept saying to Joel, like, this is the industry. If there is an industry to be in right now, look at fintech in e-commerce. Like, that is where money is being made. That is where people are flocking to. That is what people want. There are so many startups popping up there. And that was a big thing for me in really the ideation of Refundid. It's like, what is hot at the moment? You know, what do people want? What do investors want? What's going on? And it's that fintech in e-commerce that we really targeted. And I guess, yeah, as we started developing and speaking with people like Paul, and obviously, you know, through the connection with Afterpay and Touch Ventures, yeah, we really started to realize that it wasn't all, you know, roses for Afterpay, and it never is roses for any startup. It takes a long time to really build up momentum until you reach what we like to call an inflection point. And we are by no means at that inflection point. Absolutely not. We're still, you know, struggling to get clients on board. I wouldn't say struggling, but we're working hard to get clients on board. And it takes time. It takes time to build up enough of a reputation, enough of a brand name, and sort of throughout the industry that people really trust you and trust your product, and they start reaching out to you. And that's really the time where things start to change, where, you know, you've got stores reaching out to you. And it takes a long time to get your name absolutely everywhere so that starts to happen. It doesn't happen overnight.
Thanks there, Judd. And it was Afterpay, it took them 18 months to get their first 10 stores, right? Was that the number? It was something ridiculous, like really low like that, or the first 12 months, first 10 customers, yeah, from memory.
I don't know the numbers exactly, yep. So I don't take my word for it, but I think it was something around the first 12 months.
Yeah, it took a long time, and then now you look at them, you know, so, you know, yeah. It's just to highlight what you said. So moving on now, so after Incubate, you know, you've met Paul towards the end, you know, you started, you know, getting some customers on board. You then, you know, you highlighted Afterpay's Touch Ventures there. You went to raise $3 million from Afterpay's Touch Ventures. Now, there's going to be people in the audience here, you know, they might not know where to start. How does someone go out, raise $3 million? How does, you know, when you started this, you were an undergraduate student. How does someone in the audience get out there and do that if that's what they need to do for their startup?
For sure. I think it's often perceived as the hardest thing to do. There are hard things to do than raising money is sort of my experience. So really, I think the thing with our raise is, you know, I sort of was saying before how we had a slow start, and, you know, we were just sussing out, you know, can we do this? What's the go? Is this going to be all right? Should we actually invest all of our time and effort into this? And then it sort of was Paul's enthusiasm around the idea that really said to us, yeah, this is it. It's time to go. And as soon as we had that and we got a little bit of money from Paul, we sort of started to realize that, you know, we need money, we need staff, we need, you know, lots of staff. We need to get our own office space. We need to build up our brand. We need to have a proper professionally made website. We need to, you know, build up our site security, et cetera, all the things that, you know, need money. If we really want to give this a good crack and we really want to, you know, give it a good go. And so that's when we sort of decided, okay, we need to raise, you know, a seed round. And that's usually the time that companies sort of want to raise a seed round. And so we basically just went to an Excel spreadsheet and started to work out what do we want to do? You know, who do we want to employ? You know, what do we want to spend money on? And that's really how we went about it. So we really worked out how much, you know, do we need? We, you know, throughout the journey, we'd spoken with a whole lot of angel investors and a couple VCs. So we had a big list of connections, and we spent a long time making the perfect pitch deck. And I would say, honestly, that was a big key to our success. We really made a pitch deck that answered every question an investor could want. And we basically reached out to those 30 or so angels. You know, there were 1 or 2 VCs. We weren't really expecting the VCs to be interested. We were quite early stage for a VC. That's not to say VCs don't invest at such early stage, but we were quite early. So we weren't exactly expecting the VC to hop on. We were expecting a lot of these angels to be interested. And we got a lot of interest from the angels. Our round was like 2-3 times oversubscribed from the angels at one point, sort of first week after we sent it out. So we got a lot of interest. And we knew we wanted to get the deck across sort of the table of the APV, or now Touch Venture guys. You know, Afterpay, there's a strong sort of alliance between what we do and what they do. And so we were fortunate to get some connections to basically pass it over to them, and they absolutely loved it. So that's really how we got to APV. They absolutely loved it, and they wanted a significant stake. So unfortunately, we had to say no to a lot of those angel investors. And look, there are pros and cons. There really are pros and cons. Don't think that VC is the only route you have to go. There are a lot of benefits with the angel route. There are a lot of benefits with this VC route as well. So I would say, yeah, there's not one path that sort of suits everyone. We got a great opportunity with the VC. We're definitely going to take it. But if that's not your journey, I think angels, there are a lot of benefits and a lot you can get from a wide range of really sophisticated angels that are sort of in your area. You get a whole range of different opinions from different people. I mean, we have a couple angels on as well as APV, and, you know, we have got incredible benefit from them in particular areas of the business that we sort of brought them on for.
Now, that's awesome, Judd. But in saying all of this, one of the common excuses, maybe we'll call it, that I encounter at the moment over the past 1.5 years for sales, for getting out and talking to investors, is COVID, right? We can't meet them in person. We can't see them in person. Did COVID actually make it, apart from boosting e-commerce and being timely for Refundid, do you think it made it harder or easier for the sales and for the fundraising?
Look, I think for me, I have to thank COVID. I'll be completely honest, I would not be here if it was not for COVID. COVID sort of afforded me a lot of additional free time to sort of start this and get it going. And I don't really know otherwise. So for me, it seems normal, right? It really does. You know, this is my first venture. It was my first capital raise. I don't know what it's like doing a capital raise without COVID. We had a great experience doing everything online. I do not think it is an excuse. Everyone's still going to work. If anything, people are working harder. There is no time traveling into the city in parking, you know, sitting in traffic. That doesn't exist these days. People are working. People are wanting to invest their money, and that doesn't stop because of COVID. So I don't think COVID's an excuse. I think everything runs normally. For us, it was great. It helped us start Refundid. We had all of our investor meetings via Zoom, and there was never a problem. All of our pitches are via Zoom, and there's never been a problem. I mean, a lot of the guys we're pitching to are located all across Australia. And so, you know, it's not like we've got a sales team who every day are traveling to a new city to meet. Zoom's really great. You can get everything across via Zoom. People like it. It's easy in the comfort of your own home. So yeah, I think it was great for us.
So no excuses, everyone in the audience. You can get out there and do it. I know everyone's probably celebrating Freedom Day where they can. But so Judd, just quickly moving on. So some of the things then you and the team have achieved over the past year are pretty remarkable, right? They're pretty fantastic. Some people think achieving those things is impossible. So you've already said that the fundraising was a bit easier than you expected, right? Was there something else that you thought was going to be impossible that also ended up being quite easy to achieve? And then on the other end of the spectrum, if you can, was there something you thought that was easy or was going to be easy and it was a nightmare?
Yeah, I think I'll start off with that end of the spectrum. I think it's probably the biggest lesson I've learned up until this stage, without a doubt. And it's that selling is the hardest thing you will encounter. Well, I mean, that's my experience at least. You know, we, as I sort of mentioned earlier, we built a product, we thought it was perfect. We were giving it to merchants for free. We were offering it for free. We then decided that we would pay them to use it. And so that means that if a customer uses Refundid, we will actually pay the merchant to use the service. And we were calling merchants, emailing them, we'll pay you to use it, we'll pay you to use it. Our product has absolutely no risk for the store. That's our whole motto. So there's no risk, we're paying you and you're providing a service your customers are going to love. And we still did not manage to get a single merchant with that sort of business proposal. And so selling, you can think you've got the best product, you can think you've ticked every box. It's a completely different story to actually go and convince someone to do it, because there is always going to be risk on that, you know, party. For us, it's the merchants. There's always going to be a sense of, you know, what if the site just crashes and then all our customers get heaps angry? You know, what if the integration actually takes a lot longer than these guys are saying, and you know, we have to train 100 different people and it becomes a whole nightmare. It's never as simple as just creating a product that seems, you know, theoretically it should tick every single box. It's about creating a product that ticks every single box, getting in contact with the right people at the right stores for us, or you know, companies for whatever startup you guys are doing, communicating it to them in the, you know, right way, and bringing that sense of trust and security with you, that they can know that what you guys are offering is actually legit. And so that's something that's, you know, it's not, I guess, a big problem for bigger companies, but for an early stage startup, getting sort of early adopters, it's been a challenge, and nothing sort of matches that challenge. And I don't think anything in the startup journey will match that challenge of getting those early adopters up and running. So I would say that's the hardest thing that we really thought would be easy. I cannot tell you the amount of times we said, if we make this free, every single merchant will put it on. I have business plans writing. If we make it free, we'll have 100 merchants within a week. When I came to Incubate, me and Ben, you know, at the start of Incubate, you set some goals. I was like to Ben, our goal for the end of Incubate is to have 100 merchants. And in a 14 or it was around 10-week program from the day we set the goals, that's 10 merchants a week. We're not even hitting that today. So yeah, it's a challenge selling, and it gets a lot easier as you get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, as you know, you can see with Afterpay. But you know, at the start, it's definitely the hardest thing. I think on the other end of the spectrum, the stuff that people often seem to say is the hardest thing, but it's a lot easier. One of the big things is regulation. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you're going into finance, there's all this regulation, there's this, that, and the other. Yeah, there's regulation, and you speak to some experienced lawyers, and you know, you work through it and you figure out how your business model works and you comply with the regulation. And it's not an excuse, in my view, for any you know, business model. I'm not a lawyer, I do not have a law degree, and I've sort of had to set up the legal structures of our business, and you get through it. There are people who know how to do this stuff. It's sort of a common problem, I guess you could say, and you can get through it. And yeah, fundraising. There's a lot of myths in the street about it's the hardest thing to convince people to give you money. I'm not going to say it's the easiest thing in the world. You know, we were around for a while, and we'd really developed a deep understanding of our business, of, you know, what we're proposing, what we're doing. We had data to support everything. But once you sort of have a product that makes sense, once you can show that you can sell it, people want opportunities. Investors are looking for good opportunities. So 100%, if you've got a good idea and you can show that, you know, it makes sense, then there'll be investors that are interested.
Awesome. Great answer. And thank you for that, Judd. And then just maybe something when you all in the audience get a chance to Google is lines, not dots investing. And you'll see why that it's very important to talk to investors very early on, use accelerators to meet investors, because they start to form a relationship with you. So it makes it a lot easier for them to invest in you when they know who you are and they've seen you perform. So enough of us talking, Judd. I know we could keep going. let's bring Imogen back on for the Q&A. We've got some questions from the audience. Imogen, if you'd like to ask Judd.
Yeah, and thank you everyone who've been putting in their questions. We've had a couple of questions around building your team when you're starting up your own business. So throwing this maybe to throwing this to Judd first. How do you find co-founders, and what are important skills that you look for in co-founders when you are employing people? I know some of the questions have talked about finding friends and when do they have time and when do you pay them? So there can be a lot of complications around that. So how do you go about building a team when you're starting a startup?
For sure. I think it is the most important part of the whole journey is building the team. Co-founders are, I don't know who said this, it was someone during the INCUBATE program, someone who we were chatting with, they said co-founders are like, finding a co-founder is like finding a wife. And I think, you know, your co-founders, they really have to be like your best mates. You know, you guys are speaking nonstop all day, every day, all weekend, every weekend. You know, there's no holiday. You're always on the phone with your co-founders. If you look through my, you know, my WhatsApp messages and my phone, who I call, it's all day, every day with my co-founders. And so it's really important that you guys are on the same page. It's really important that you guys get along. It's really, 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 really important you guys have different skills. So currently there's four co-founders. I didn't sort of mention, but there was me and Joel, and we brought on a tech guy who was Joel's cousin. And he was a couple years older than us, had a lot of experience sort of in the industry of development. And then we brought on sort of a good friend of mine's older brother, who is helping us sort of with the sales and has helped us with the fundraise a lot. And really, we all have completely different ways of looking at things. We all do completely different things, and we all like completely different things. And so with that in mind, you know, we can actually move forward. It's not like we're all trying to do the same thing. We bring different experiences. And so that's really, really, really essential. And so I would say for a co-founder, you know, you want someone who's got different skills to you. That's key. You want someone who you get along with really, really, really well. Yeah, and I think that sort of question about paying co-founders, your co-founders, you guys don't pay, you know, you don't pay your co-founder. If you're paying your co-founder, I would say that's more like hiring an employee. That's sort of the way that I see it, which, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with hiring employees. You know, you need to hire employees and you need to pay your employees well, and you need to, you know, incentivize and offer, you know, options and equity to employees. That's really, really, really important. But I wouldn't say, you know, paying the co-founders really, yeah, I wouldn't call that a co-founder in my view. So, yeah.
Great. And Ben, as a co-founder yourself, do you have anything additional to add about building a great team?
Oh yeah, look, I think it really depends on where you are in your career. So for all the younger people in the audience, you've got to make sure, you know, there's a broad range of skills. So particularly when you're building an app, you need to have someone who can build the app on the team. You don't want to just outsource everything. But one thing to be wary of is when you start a business, you don't necessarily have to decide what roles you want to fit, you know, particularly when you don't have a huge range of experiences in the, you know, in the professional world. So if you're an undergrad student, I always recommend, don't stress too much about being the CEO, COO, CTO just yet. You know, spend some time getting to work together as a team, seeing what roles you naturally fall into. As you get more professional experience, it is a lot clearer, right? You hire an engineer to be the CTO if you wouldn't hire someone with only sales experience to be the CTO. You know, my co-founders, we started our idea when we were at university, and then we didn't decide our roles for 3 years until we basically fell right into them.
Great. And it's great to hear about you starting your business when you were University of Sydney students, like many of those who are on the call today. And so, Ben, what was the biggest unexpected challenge you faced along your journey of creating a startup?
Mine was, you know, similar to Judd's. If I looked at all the other stories out there of how people take a medical device to market, you know, everyone says things like it's going to cost $25 million, it's going to cost $30 million. the reality is, there's a lot cheaper ways to take it to market, particularly with ours. It's a medical device which is classified as class 1. So it fits in a similar umbrella to Band-Aids. It's a lot cheaper. And we were able to bootstrap the whole way. We were able to take this medical device to market. And this is all university students saving up, risking, a few things, putting all our pennies into the one basket. And we're very fortunate that it started to pay off. And, to Judd's point about not looking at other stories, if we followed someone else's journey, I have no idea where our startup would be today.
And Judd, you spoke about how COVID was actually great for your business. I think a lot of businesses would have struggled during COVID. So it's great that you were able to thrive in this time of a global pandemic. But what would you say your most unexpected challenge was during your journey of a startup?
Most unexpected challenge. There's been a lot. Really, every week there's a new hiccup from the site going down, to the merchant that you've been working on for months that you think's about to go on, solely working towards building something for them, then just saying no, or let's wait. It's hard to really, I'd say it's hard to put a finger on sort of one major challenge. If I was, it would probably be the first merchant that we thought we had. So this was before INCUBATE, around the time of submitting the application. We had interest from a merchant who was pretty sizable that was really keen to be involved as our first merchant, and also as sort of, the founder was keen to be involved from an advisory role, and it all seemed great. And they told us, yeah, once the product's built, we'll put it on. We love you guys. This all seems incredible. It's amazing. We spent, 2-3 months building it, exclusively for them. We were going into their office and doing returns for them, a couple times. And it's in sort of late November last year. We'd had the pitch set up for a couple of weeks. We all go, the 4 founders, and we pitch it together. And they're just like, no, we can't put you guys on. And so, yeah, I remember all of us sort of walking out of we were working out of an old Airbnb at that stage. And we all walked out of there and we were like, yeah, this is what's going on now. This is it, this is over. And obviously it wasn't over. The next day we came back and we created a plan. We decided exactly what we need to do to, move forward. It was now sort of coming up to Christmas. Stores didn't really want to be implementing any new features in that time of the year. They've got a bit of a blackout period. So we used the time to completely revise the product, completely change it, or not completely, but in many ways change it. And that new product is really what we have today. And, if it wasn't for them saying no, we probably wouldn't have gone and done that massive change to our product. So, yeah.
That's fantastic to hear. The journey that you've been on, and that you didn't give up when you did have some setbacks like that. So I just have one final question for you, Judd, and that is, what does the future of Refundid look like? What can we expect to see from you in the future?
Who knows is the true answer. 18 months ago, I was at uni and there was no such word as Refundid in my mind. And look where we are 18 months later. So I can't tell you, we are working really hard to make Refundid in every single e-commerce store. That's sort of our mission. We think every e-commerce store should be able to offer this experience to their customers. We think customers want it. We know customers want it, and we think customers deserve it. So that's really where Refundid's going. And yeah, we're just hoping to grow.
Well, I think myself and everyone else on the call is very much looking forward to see what is next for Refundid. I'm going to look out and can't wait to see you guys in the AFR, Sydney Morning Herald. I'm sure it will be only a matter of months until we have another article about Refundid. I'm now going to throw to Ben. We've spoken a lot about INCUBATE and the INCUBATE program, which Judd and the Refundid team have gone through to build up their startup. So now I'm going to throw to Ben so you all on the call can learn a little bit more about it and how you can get involved.
No, thank you, Imogen. And thank you everyone for coming along, and a quick thank you again to Judd for joining in. I know we can't see anyone on the other side of the webinar, but this is the Zoom. Round of applause for Judd and Imogen. Look, everyone, I really hope that conversation with Judd, I know it was brief, really showed you that it isn't impossible, right? And that's one of the biggest fears, we encounter with, particularly undergrad students that approach Incubate is, am I really able to do this? And the reality is you are. So we spend a big focus or a big amount of time at Incubate demystifying the process for you, letting you know that you can do it. So there is a framework to getting your startup up and running. You heard Judd say it, there's multiple different teams. Sometimes the workshops aren't specifically tailored for medtech, for edtech, for fintech, right? But there's things in there that you can take and you can hit the ground running, whether that's the accelerator, the Proto workshops, or the ProtoX program. So if you do have an idea, I would love for you to apply to Class 17 of Incubate's accelerator program. Please note, again, these applications close next Monday at 11:59 p.m. That's the 18th of October. There is a second accelerator next year, starting in July. But if you want to get started in February next year, please apply. The worst thing that can happen is we'll look at your idea and we'll say, maybe you're too early, you should do this program, or you'll get amazing constructive feedback from all the markers and all the mentors as well that will give you the next steps to take anyway. So if you're interested as well in learning more about Incubate, we have an information session on this Friday, the 15th of October at 1 p.m. For all the information and how to apply to the accelerator or how to learn more about our free Proto workshops, so they're free. The ProtoX program, also free. And the drop-in sessions, again, $0. We don't expect anything from you. We don't take any equity. Please head over to incubate.org.au. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all have the same handle, @Sydney Incubate. Lastly, any questions, please reach out, hello@incubate.org.au. You'll get in touch with either Nina or myself, and we will be more than happy to get back to you. So thank you everyone from me for attending. I really appreciate you coming along. And once more, thanks again to Judd Katz, the co-founder of Refundid. If you know anyone, a quick plug for Judd, know anyone with an e-commerce store, make sure you tell them about Refundid so they can use that for their customers. Back to you, Imogen.
Thank you, Ben. And yes, another thank you for Judd, for those fantastic insights into what it takes to be a founder of your own startup. And thank you everyone for joining the call today and for those fantastic questions. I know we couldn't get to them all, but hopefully that gave you a great insight into what it is to be a founder. And yes, like Ben mentioned, make sure you check out Incubate. I cannot recommend the program enough. If you enjoyed that talk today and are interested in learning more about how to get involved in innovation at the University of Sydney, stay for our next session, Innovation for Students by Students panel, starting at 2:15. So you've got time to have a quick break in between the end of this call. We'll be joined by a stellar lineup of students and alumni, including Matilda Langford, University of Sydney Student Ambassador, Rashab Jan, President of Sydney Uni's Medical Innovation Society, Muskan Jan, President of Enactus, Adam Miller from the Sachin and Adams Show, and Audrey Thermahadra, UCIT alumni and current graduate at Canva. Thank you all for joining the call today. The Zoom link for the next session will be posted in the chat, and we hope to all see you there. Thank you so much.